Calling in order, start the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How's the agenda work?
I don't have anything to add. Motion we approve as written.
Second.
All in favor? Open to the public.
I have a couple things. I had someone call me the other day and ask when we're putting out our next newsletter, because they really missed the newsletter and they haven't seen one for quite a while.
The arrow?
The Arrow, yeah. And did everybody get a copy of this letter from Mr. gentleman over on the Curtis Road?
Yep, I got one.
Okay, all right. It's addressed to Beth, so.
Yeah, I think we all got one.
That's it.
Anything else from the public? Come on, Don. Step up to the plate.
What's the letter from the Curtis Road? I'd be interested in that.
The gentleman is questioning his abatement that he just received on his value of his property, and he wants to appeal the abatement that he received.
Is there, to follow up to Donna's first comment, is
The
there a
Arrow.
plan for the Arrow coming out soon, or?
No, but if it's, I mean, I guess we're gonna have to logistically figure out how we're going to do it. I'd like to, you know, it would be beneficial, it would be a volunteer thing, more so than taking up staff time to do it. But if you folks feel it's important enough to have that quarterly or semi, however you wanna put it out, then we'll have to find a way to get it done for you.
I mean, it's something that has been out for a while, and, you know, the townsfolk like it. I don't think we should not put it out, so.
It gives them a little synopsis of the important things that are going on in town.
All right, well, we'll try to work out some sort of logistics here, and see how we can pull it off.
Seeing no other public comment, approval of the minutes.
Make a motion we approve as written.
Change. Number 2 says can reply to no when they're going for people here.
All of them are that way.
What's that? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, it should have been 4-0, 4-0.
Yeah,
Number 4 or 2.
yeah, the other ones are okay.
Okay, number 4. Okay, yeah, I see. I'll make that correction.
Good pickup, Bill. All right, so I amend my motion as written, I mean, as, yeah, right.
You second that? No, I did.
Okay.
All those in favor? Any board reports? Probably meet with the holiday, huh?
Too busy with other stuff. Meetings that happen, but.
About update on the other night, you guys did the dine and discuss, I missed it, but.
Yes, lasted a little longer than we thought. It was, I think, what was it, 6 to 8 o'clock, and we were trying to get done by 7:30. The agenda was basically every community as well as the school was providing an overview of what cost or changes in their budgets that may be occurring through this budget cycle. So the intent was to try to give everybody an idea of the other impacts, and not only the school but other things have on taxes in general for all the communities. We got into various discussions on what was beneficial in terms of cost-saving measures. There were some people felt that we should spend more time on looking at other local things like municipalities plowing the schools was a big issue that was being discussed. The municipal staff, as well as the school staff, continue to believe that our largest savings will be in the future, and it will be on when the families here in Arundel make choices as to where their kids in middle school and high school will be attending, will be where the recognized savings are going to be. After the meeting, we decided to get together, which we did today. We're going to continue to work on a strategy of trying to assist everyone in understanding the importance of the kids making a choice into the district as opposed to going elsewhere. We're going to be meeting in the 3rd of February with all our respective recreation directors and try to come up with a plan of action of shared recreation activities for that school age to assist more interaction between those school children in an attempt to make more relationships at that level and see if it helps. So that's the efforts that are being made right now. It doesn't appear that we'll get together as a overall group until probably in the fall sometime. That's our thought process. So give us enough time to evaluate other areas that people wrote down on their exit pieces of what we should be looking at, as well as to see how successful we are with combining some recreational activities. And that pretty well sums up the evening.
You know, one of the comments we discussed was they get all together and the fuel, and if there was a fuel in the paper,
Yeah.
I mean, the paper is nothing, but, I think that answer was just kind of a boilerplate answer. I mean, I don't see how our road department and the road department in Kennebunk and Kennebunkport can't get in on those savings. I mean, that's bulk purchases of fuel and so, I mean, I think we should be working with the RSU when that comes out, when they go and look for that. Hey, how can we involve the towns, how can we involve the road departments for the towns to maybe get some, maybe we have a better deal than them, I don't know, but that ought to be looked at as a whole community. I mean, the schools are one community, we ought to look at that all together. I think there's an opportunity there, and the answer was okay, but I think it was just boilerplate. We ought to go ask those questions and how can we get some more savings?
Any other board reports, committee reports? Nothing? Norma? No? Mr. Manager?
Yeah, I have a few things under my report. First one, I wanted to talk about a little bit about Arundel Estates and Stony Brook Lane. Not quite sure how much up to speed you folks may be on Stony Brook at this point, but we had a few of the residents down there on Stony Brook Lane that would like to have the town consider taking their road over as a town way or a town road. So what that does is, for us, is it triggers a review of how the road was built, and if it was built to town standards that we can accept, as well as if there were any deviations from what we normally accept, if those were reported and there were approvals provided. Throughout the course of our review, it appears to us, the staff, as well as the staff engineer, that there was some filling in of the ditch line along both sides of the road that were not according to the plan as approved. And the only place that it appeared that there was an ability to fill in the ditch line and put under drainage. It was in front of one of the lots, Lot 3, and the only reason was that there's an underground CMP pad or electrical pad there that they figured it was going to continue to wash out if they didn't take steps to fix it. Evidently, there was, during the approval process, there was a 3 culverts that were put in as opposed to putting a large concrete box culvert in. That did receive approval. So our review of it, it appears to me that as built, staff would not be recommending that we be taking the road as a town way. As I begin to put together a letter, I'll be responding to the property owners up there and just giving them an idea of what our thoughts were. I wanted to provide to them another option. In fact, that they wanted on a town warrant. And as I looked at and tried to review options, their only option would be to request a petition to have it placed on the warrant for consideration by the body. And I will make that known to them. There are other avenues, but it depends on how the road would be categorized, if they have other options to accept the road or have the road accepted, or one of the things I was looking at was a public easement to the road, but the road has never been a town road, so the public easement section would not apply, where they could come to the municipality through a town meeting warrant and ask for minimal maintenance on that piece as a result of it. So I sort of just dropped that one. So I think the only other alternative would be a petition warrant article. Not sure if they'll do that, not sure if they'll go back and maybe redo the ditch line, put the proper ditches in that we requested. Some of the fill that they put in, they did put some under drainage in, but there's no record of what the under drainage consisted of, what size it was, how it was installed, whether it was inspected. So there's a lot of questions there, so.
You have to do a lot of core samples there, right?
You may have to do some sampling, but I think the larger issue at this point is the drainage, the associated drainage with the road. Moving on, if you recall several months or several meetings back, I indicated to you that there was a penalty, IRS penalty that was imposed upon the town. We had, on several occasions, had responded to the IRS indicating that that we had supplied all the information. We couldn't understand why there was a penalty provided here. We weren't getting many responses. Staff reached out to a public advocate. We were given a name of a public advocate, so we reached out to them. Lo and behold, we received notification from the IRS that the fine is gone. They received all the paperwork, and everything is okay at this point. So that issue is now gone. The other thing that we had we were looking at was a modification of administrative fees for the Board of Appeals. If you recall, right now our ordinance indicates that we charge $250, which covers pretty much everything, notifications to the abutters, to the paper, proper advertisements. Because we've had some large appeals that had come forward, we thought maybe we were too low upon further review of other municipalities within the area. We now believe that our fee is, based on how we're applying it, how we're using it, is proper with everybody else around us. So at this juncture, we withdraw any consideration for a public hearing to discuss it any further. We think that the money that we have here is adequate.
So, the way it's written, any additional fees goes
to the applicant.
Right, so have we charged the
Yes.
applicant for any, okay, have
Yes.
we paid for that
Yes.
stuff?
Yeah, those fees are coming in, so.
Yeah,
And finally, I've given you a copy of the finished financial audit for this past year. My review of the audit, as you probably well know better than I, we have no municipal debt at this particular point. The audit looked very, very clean. We have a fund balance of around $2.5 million, which is very healthy for a community our size and our exposure. And I was very pleased with the audit. If you take a look at it and you feel that specifics need to be discussed, I can reach out to the audit firm and have them attend one of your meetings to review the audit with you folks. I know I just gave it to you tonight. It was something I don't think I could email to you at the time. So after you've taken a look at it, if you have any other questions, we'll try to get them answered.
Have you had a chance to really go through this yourself?
A little bit, yes. Yeah,
So, I mean, I know it came out good, but, I mean, they always make recommendations.
They had a management letter. They were concerned initially that we didn't have any proper policies in terms of writing off ambulance billing. We addressed that. If you recall, we took care of that. I think it was in November or December, or whenever the policy was enacted. Because they didn't have that information, we provided that to them, and the management letter came through with that recognized, and that we had taken action to taking care of it. So I don't think of anything else that was glaring within their report or their management letter that gave me time for pause. But like in any of those things, I think one of the important things that they always look at is making sure that our policies are up to date and that we're following our policies. So we'll continue to work on those and review them, and if there's any suggestions and modifications, I'll certainly come forward. You want me to keep right on going?
Yeah, let's roll right in the municipal budget.
Yeah, I had a couple things. I think it's going to come under new business, roadway weight limits. I'll bring it up then, if you don't mind. I should have mentioned it to you folks before you approved your agenda. My apologies. I have it listed up under my manager's report. I think it more applies under new business. What I did with the municipal budget questions, at your last meeting, you had come up with a bunch of stuff that you wanted to try to get some answers to. So I reached out to try to get some of that information for you. A couple things that we're still working on is the road list and the list of bridges. I've done the MDOT list, and I've spoken to Roger on the bridges. Looks like MDOT recognizes that we have 3 municipal bridges that we're exclusively required to take care of. The only one that's on the red list right now is the Duckbrook Bridge, which we're now working on to try to solve that problem. Roger thinks there's some large culverts that probably should be recognized as bridges, and we need to take a better look at that. And so once we do that, we'll supply that list to you so you'll have it, along with some sort of understanding of how we feel the road system is and where we're going to be going with those. You'd asked about the Eastern Trail, and I reached out to Roger on it. I guess back in August, he had provided, August of 2014, he provided a list of things that needed to be done there, and quite specifically, it's a section of the Eastern Trail that is lower than the surrounding ground around it. And as a result of that, when it rains, it captures all the water, and the water can't go anywhere. It just dissipates through the ground. He believes we can't cut the edges of the trail because it's on the utility right of way, and the from what I understand, the gas line is fairly close to the surface, so they would not provide us the ability to do that. Back in 2014, he came up with a materials and labor cost of $62,000 to repair that area. When I spoke to him, he feels that that area still needs to be repaired. Right now, we're setting aside $5,000, and both him and I feel that we're gonna do what we can over the next several years to try to systematically build that section of the Eastern Trail back up.
How big is that section?
Right now, he has it as 20 feet wide and 3,100 feet long.
We had talked about using the park funds for some of that, didn't we?
I'm not sure, you haven't discussed that with me, so.
Right.
I'm
We
not
had
sure.
talked about, what did we use, we have used park funds for
I think
something
it
on
was a
Eastern Trail.
washout, I think there was a really bad washout section,
Right.
and it was very sandy, and, I mean, people riding bikes would, you know, get stuck in it and everything, and I think that was the area that they put stone dust or some type of
Yeah.
base to it, and we paid, I think it was like $500 or $800 from the rec fund to cover those costs
From the park fund.
from the park, because, yeah.
Suze?
So unless we come up with another plan, or unless it gets so severe. I
There
think
had been some talk about, at that time, I think when we had taken the funds, about Tad trying to get a hold of, I think, the Eastern Trail Committee to see if they could get an engineer, at least get the engineers to design that section or whatever, or fix that section. I don't know that anything ever came of that, you know.
Roger and I didn't discuss engineering cost. Evidently, he put together, you know, and I'll make this available to you all, if you don't recall getting it. He's got the gravel, stone dust, the loam, seed mulch, how much time it's gonna take to do all that work, so pretty extensive. But I guess we can look into whether or not there's other, I don't know of any dollars right now, and I believe I spoke to Tad, if there's any outstanding federal dollars that could be accessed to repair this.
But we have a park fund.
Right, you have a capital reserve fund, park fund, it's got about $87,000 in it. I'm not sure what, how you've administered that or used that in the past, but.
We haven't used it except for the little amount of money to fix the trail.
Trail.
Last year or the year before, I mean, time flies, but we kind of made a determination, hey, it's a park. I mean, it's the only real park that Arundel has. And we made a determination that those funds could be used for something like that, so that's maybe another option to look at. Certainly
Okay.
don't want to deplete those funds, but, you know.
Right.
Maybe we could use some of it to do step fixes here and there or something, but.
It's an interesting thought, I haven't given it any further thought. I'd like to have the opportunity, now that we've lost some of the snow, is that Roger mentioned that, you know, he'd more than take me out there and take a look at what we're talking about, so. I'd like to
Yeah.
keep an eye on it.
So is that something to be done in increments, or would you lose some of what you've already done by virtue of not doing it all at once?
You could do it in increments, yeah. Bring in a layer and get it up a little bit, a little more. And it seems as though that might not have been constructed properly, because in the amount of time that that trail has been there, and the foot traffic and bicycle traffic should not be enough to deteriorate that to that stage. So it seems like the Eastern Trail folks should have some responsibility there for not getting it done properly in the beginning. That foot traffic could not have brought that down
No.
that much in that period of time.
It was a heavy rain washout, because I remember taking my bike out there, and it was a big washout, all of the trail, you know, was.
But that part we fixed, right, the washout part Roger fixed.
I think it covered, but I think the reason it washed out was because the grade wasn't right, and I think they fixed it so that it wasn't soft sand, but it just, you know, I don't know that the problem
It
is solved.
washed out because the grade wasn't right.
Mhm.
That says to me it wasn't built right.
Right. To your point, if we have a heavy rain,
They could do it again.
right, in a non-frozen situation like this past weekend, it could wash out again.
That was my concern about doing it in increments. I don't want to do it a little bit and then
Right.
have a storm and it's all gone, we start all over again.
Yeah, if you do just a layer on the whole distance, you'd have to provide a way for the water to escape
Mm.
Yeah,
in a heavy rain so that you don't lose what you did.
yeah.
That's doable.
Just throwing this out there, but I know the Eastern Trail is a huge selling point for the seasonal cottages. And they've got 8 million yards of whatever it is sitting there. I mean, maybe it would be worth approaching them saying, look, can we,
Some of this.
mind trucking some of this gravel to the Eastern Trail? And,
That's an excellent idea.
you know, and
I mean, it's right there.
Thought.
if it would cut down the cost, I'm sure that guy would be more than happy to help us. And I don't know what on earth they're gonna do with that big pile of dirt.
They'll end up using some of it as phases go, but they're making it faster than they're using it. They're crushing the ledge and blending it with other materials, and they're making a quality gravel out of it.
Yeah. I don't know, just a food for thought, Keith.
It's a great thought, thank you. Some other things related to the budget. We were, if you recall, we were discussing at the transfer station that we may have to replace one of the receiver boxes, and we were in the, we had budgeted right off about $10,000 to accomplish that. The first estimate that Roger has received is about $6,200 to replace that 40-yard Octagon box. So because it's still over our $5,000 threshold, we continue to look to see if we can get any better cost estimates other than 62 for it. But at the very least, we may be at 62, then we'll have to put it out to some sort of bid process because of the over the 5,000. Just food for thought as we go through that. And finally, on the budgets at this point, I'm having my first organizational meeting with the budget board on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock here at the school. I'll be providing to them the same information I provided to you, because by charter, their first organization meeting is scheduled by me, and then they appoint their chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. Then they establish their meeting dates. I've indicated to them and encouraged them to, when they begin the process, particularly discussing with the department heads, that the board of selectmen want to be part of that process, so we hear all the same information at the same time. So I'll share that with them. They'll get a chance, they'll get their first review of the budget. I'm sure they'll have some general questions, as you folks did initially. And then we'll begin scheduling the budget meetings so we can firm up whatever costs we have associated with the budget. That's all I have under that.
We had a discussion at the comp plan meeting about, you had brought to us and we rejected engineering costs associated with potential sewer.
Yes.
And at our meeting, there was, I mean, everybody's, I think, in a position where at some point in time, we're just gonna have to bite the bullet with the sewer issue. It's just, and it sounds like Kennebunk is moving forward with their expansion,
They are.
and we need to be in lockstep with them to some degree, and maybe engineering needs, maybe we ought to engage these services, as you earlier recommended, of somebody to help us along with the process on this side of the river. I didn't understand that when you first brought it to us, but it sounded like from our discussion and some of the information Simone provided, that maybe we ought to be looking at this now.
Well, I agree. You know, oftentimes those meetings, some of the flavor of what transpires gets back to me, and that information did. I reached out to Tad and told him that this week I'd like to have the RFP done, so we can get it out, find out what kind of money we're talking about, so we can have a discussion on that. So they can get involved in the process, particularly with Kennybunk in terms of flows and
Right.
whatever, how we're going to manage sewer in Arundel when the time comes. So those are all important questions that need to be answered and far above what I can provide. So we'll get the RFP done and then we'll be back in front of you to try to get that moving forward so we can be prepared.
So at the dine and discuss meeting, you know, they put their budget together,
The sewer
the
district?
sewer district. And, you know, I mentioned, is any of that, you know, got Arundel, and he kind of said, no. So immediately after the meeting, I went to Keith and said that I don't like that answer. We should be talking with these guys, and we should be, you know, especially if they're doing designs and getting rid of new designs, that should be happening now with us getting involved with them, and that, so, I mean, I think it's key that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, what those, whatever those designs are, we'd like to include the flow.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be coming down Route 1, so I think the onus is on us, I think, to provide them with that
I
information.
agree.
Yeah, yeah,
We're gonna pay for it, but I
yeah.
think it's gotta be done, even if they say no at some point.
Yeah, it's gotta be done, but we, you know, they need to know that, hey, we're working on it, whatever designs you got, not hold off, but, you know, you have to keep us in mind.
Please, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, once we entered into some sort of agreement with a engineering firm, they can contact the district's engineering firm and begin to have that dialogue, so we're not missing the boat.
I talked with Mike Bolduc for a few minutes after the meeting, and he said that at this point in time, doesn't seem to be any interest in discussing Arundel hooking on. Down the road, I don't know what that would mean.
what was that, Phil?
Mike Bolduc?
For, did you say Bedford or?
No,
Kennybunk.
Oh,
Kennebunk. I think we just keep marching forward,
Yeah.
and part of the RFP, I think we need to look at going north too as well. We'll see where it takes us.
But, you know, it may be, but with the information, that we can convince them that it's, might be in their interest.
Yeah, maybe,
They may make some money off us, you
yeah.
know?
When I posed that question to him, and his answer to me was basic, point blank was no. And I didn't wanna push it at that meeting, I figured I'll wait and we'll talk to Keith and we'll go from there, but I said, seriously, I think there's a good opportunity for them, so.
That's all I have on the budget tonight. I haven't, I've got some new numbers coming in, and I haven't changed those. I want to make the presentation to the budget committee. And when we get together, I'll update the numbers that I have. Getting some social service agency numbers coming in. I want to make sure we put those in. And today I had a meeting with the Kennebunk Free Library, and when we get in the budget process, I'll talk to you about that. But everything seems to be coming together. We'll just have to make some decisions moving forward.
Thank you, sir. We'll keep going with.
I have some stuff on the new business. My first one is taking a look at the personnel policy in section 5.8, the retirement section. And I have to admit, now that I've been here 6 months, now I qualify for the retirement piece. And so it sort of got me looking back at the policy. And oh, by the way, that reminds me, at some point here in the near future, you have to do an evaluation on me so I can have some adjustments in compensation if you so desire to make those things. But in any event, I looked at that, and the way it's written at this particular point is that contributions aren't made to any retirement system unless the employee makes a contribution as well. And the town of Arundel has capped their contribution up to 6%. So in other words, regardless of what the employee does, if they do 8%, you're still gonna be capped at 6. If they do 2%, the way it's written right now, you would only contribute 2%. So it would be 4%. What I'm proposing here is a modification of the policy. And let me just explain why. At this juncture, when we develop the budget and put together the packages for our employees, we earmark 6% of the total that goes into a retirement fund for our employees. That budget gets approved, it goes to town meeting, it gets approved. So in essence, that money sits there unless the employee takes advantage of it. What I'm proposing here is that the town go ahead and contribute 6% into an employee's retirement fund, regardless of what the employee does. So if the employee doesn't want to put any money in, we've already budgeted our section that we would put it in on their behalf. They would go ahead and it's through the 457 program, so they would, or Voya now, for some of our employees. So they could choose where their money would go, and then it would be administered. And then they have the ability at some point to put some of their money into it. To me, it just seems like we're not exposing the town to any more cost than you've already obligated yourself to. To me, it looks like a very good thing to encourage our employees to have retirement. I think some of our employees may not take advantage of it because they can't afford to maybe put the 3 or 4, and maybe young families, they're starting, and they're saying to themselves, oh, we'll put that money aside elsewhere. Being a person a little older, I wish I had the foresight to put some money aside when I was younger, because, you know, as I get older, I'll have to scramble a little bit more. So my proposal to you is to make a modification of the policy to reflect that the town shall contribute 6% of base salary to a retirement program for our employees.
The plan allows that an employee opts out, but we can still contribute?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a time frame for that employee to be vested in those funds? In other words, are they 100% vested immediately? Do they have to work for the town for a certain amount of time before they're 100% vested?
I don't have that answer. I'm not quite sure what that answer is.
I have a question. How is that being administrated? You know, if I remember working at Pratt, if I put in 5%, they match X% of what I put into it. Now, you're giving that employee 6% whether he's interested in it or not. But I mean, if he's into it 5%, why don't you give him 6% of the 5%? Don't give him the full 6%. Why are you doing that? Is that a legitimate question?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they're all legitimate questions. What I'm proposing here is that the town make a contribution regardless of what the employee does.
So you're giving, basically, you're giving them raise.
Well, we're giving them the benefit that's already been approved to provide to them, yes. So if you want to, if you consider it compensation that will be theirs in the future, yes.
But I think it would be more of an interest if he was gonna put in a certain percent, you're gonna match 6% of that. Just don't give him the full 6% if he isn't gonna contribute anything himself. Why are we doing that?
Well, that's our policy now, right?
Right,
We match.
right. Our policy
You match.
now.
We match, that's all we do now, we match.
You're not matching anything. You're
Correct.
giving it to him.
No,
Right now, we don't do it, this is the proposal I've made. Right now, the policy is, you can contribute, what you contribute, the town will only match up to 6%. So if you want to put in 10% of your salary, they're only gonna match 6. If you put in 4, they're only gonna match 4. They're gonna match up to that, they won't go more than 6. So that's how it's written now, and how it's administered. And all I'm saying to you folks is to consider another way to do it, provide that benefit.
It could very well be an extra benefit that we would have for our employees that would help to keep them on a par with with what area communities pay. In other words, we probably pay less than what area communities pay, but if we had that little extra perk in there in a retirement fund for them, that might be the difference between keeping a good employee and them going to Kennebunk, Port, or Biddeford.
How does this not cost the town any further approval?
Right now, your budget, if you look at the large spreadsheet I provide you, I factor in what the salary, what the fixed salary is for every position. I factor in 6%.
Right now, you've already budgeted
It's there.
6%.
It's been like that for as long as you've had it. Past managers have put that 6% there, so
Okay.
it's there.
Excuse me, but what are we matching the 6%? Is it his salary or what he puts into it? So if a guy's making $25,000, you're putting in 6% of that a year?
If he is.
But right now, we match what he puts in. He or
That's the
she.
way it should be.
Well, that may be, Don, but that's all we do right now.
Okay.
Okay, just the
So he
proposal
wants to
now is
change.
to say you're gonna get 6% whether you participate or not.
Right.
Is that out of the ordinary? I mean, unfortunately, I live in the self-employed world, so I don't have this luxury.
In the public sector, it's not out of the ordinary.
The fixed percent,
Yeah, provide a contribution to an employee for.
I understand the match is a common practice, but
Right.
I mean, do other employers set a limit, like, doesn't matter what you put in, I'm gonna put in 6%?
Correct. There are a lot of municipalities that do that. They'll have a cap of their salary and they'll put in that amount towards that person's retirement, regardless of what their contribution is.
And if that person doesn't participate, then those funds that we put aside,
They lapse into fund balance and come back to you as,
Designated or something?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
exactly what happens with it.
But now it would be an expense. We would never get money back.
That's correct. The 6% would go to an employee who identified and that would go into their coffers.
See, I know in a lot of instances, when an employee goes to work and there's a match made to their retirement fund, the first 2 years, they may only be able to keep a certain percentage of what is matched. And then it goes up so that by the time they're there 5 years, they're 100% vested, so everything that the community has put in there is theirs. But before that, if they leave before that, they only get part of what's in there. They only get part of what the employer has put in there.
Yeah, I'm
You
not
don't
sure.
get
I'd have to look
100%.
to the Voyer to find out exactly how that is administered in terms of vested interest.
so you say that this doesn't cost the town any money, but
Any more money.
any more money, but if it doesn't go into, like today, the people that don't contribute goes to undesignated funds, so that's just gonna reduce that undesignated fund. Not reduce it, but then.
well, right.
Increase it, yeah.
Right.
It won't
It
increase
will, that's correct. It will be money that wasn't spent, just like any other budget, at the end of the given year, if there's money remaining, it goes into undesignated, it goes towards your fund balance. So it would be the same principle. If in fact you changed, that would not happen. That money would go in if the full-time employee would receive that compensation as part of his benefit package, his or her benefit package.
Do we have employees who in fact do not participate in the plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather see, I don't have a problem with this, but I'd almost rather see it used as like a step raise type incentive. I mean, we have the luxury of having town employees that have been here like Simone for just endless years, you know? But I mean, I
I'm
don't,
feeling every one of them, right?
Yeah.
just, something just doesn't seem right about like a new employee, all of a sudden, no matter what, it's just getting 6%. I mean, I'd almost wanna see it worded more towards.
6% raise?
Well, you don't get the money in your pocket, you know.
Yeah, right.
It goes into your
It goes in-
retirement fund.
It's not like something you can spend.
I don't, I mean, I'd almost like to see it kick in maybe, like, we'll match you up to the 6%, whatever you put in maybe for the first 5 years of service, and then if you're with us 5 years or more, you'll get the 6% no matter what. I don't,
I
Get
see what you're
vested,
saying.
get vested first.
yeah, I just.
Be here for a while before the automatic 6% applies.
I mean, that to me makes more sense than just all of a sudden, day one, you walk through the door, guess what, you're getting 6% of.
You gotta look at the plan to see if you're allowed
Yeah.
to do those things. I think these plans are highly administered, and if you make a mistake, there's tax consequence. I mean, it's scary business. You have to get plan administrator approval for all those types of things. But, I mean, I think your suggestion is a good one in terms of brand new employee, maybe not. Although I agree with Keith, I wish I had paid attention to my retirement much sooner than I did.
And I know for myself, when I was working at the hospital, my kids were little, they started offering the plan, but it was, I couldn't afford it.
Right, just-
You know, your kids are little.
Mhm. Yeah.
uh,
You never wanna look ahead, it's never gonna happen, right? Yeah.
Hey, Dan, what about a Pratt Whitney? They don't match 6% of your total wages, they only match what you put into it. If you
Up
put,
to 6%.
yeah, so you put 20%, they'll put in 6, but they don't, not of your full wages.
Well, it's, percent of pay, right? So if you put in
No,
6%.
it's 6% of the 20% that you're putting in, right?
No,
No, 6% of your pay,
Yeah.
your pay.
Base salary.
base salary.
No, that's not what Pratt does.
No,
I don't know what Pratt
does.
You put in 20%, right? They match up to 6% of that. Not of your total wages, you guys make $100,000 a year, they're not gonna give you 6%. They're gonna give you 6% on the 20% that you're putting in.
Yeah.
The way ours is written right now, we would match up to, the way it's written right now is if they contributed, you would match up to 6% total of their base salary.
Yeah, and that's the way the bank did it too.
Right.
If
That's
I
the way
put
my
in
office does it.
6%,
Yeah.
they would match my 6%, and it was 6% of my total salary.
So I really don't wanna sit here and dwell upon this if you're all having hiccups over a minute or changing it. I guess the way I look at it is that, do you want me to look at it further in terms of making sure that it can be administered if we change it? Number two, if in fact you feel that Jason's proposal has some merit and you'd like to see that, I can go ahead and look at that. I can also look at the vested piece and see what's contributed there. Or I can do nothing. If you guys don't want me to touch it right now, and leave it alone, then we'll just leave it alone. So those are your options. I don't know where you want me to go. I just thought it was something that would be easy to administer, but it seems that the devil may be in the details.
I like Jason's proposal, only that I think it will encourage people to
Stay.
stay.
That's what I feel like it would do, you know?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean,
If I stay here
that's a
5
benefit of
years,
staying, I'm gonna get.
First 5 years, whatever you put in will match, after that, we'll automatically put in 6%.
If it can be,
Yeah, if it can be
if it can be
administered.
done that way.
I'll certainly look at that. I'll come back to you with some more information, and then you folks will have to make a decision one way or the other what you want to do with the policy after you get that. Okay. The next thing I had was, again, in the personnel policies under appendix C, we have a cell phone use policy. generally, I think when it was written for, folks that may work for, and be employed by us, that have a cell phone. We wanted to limit their amount of use of their own personal phone, while at work. What we're now finding is that, the other question that came up was that we also supply to some of our employees cell phones. And the question came up is what happens when they're using it for town business and also maybe for personal business, personal calls, so on and so forth. Some of the plans are set up where, regardless of who's paying for it, there may be unlimited text messaging, unlimited phone calls, and your data may be limited to a certain amount. What I'm proposing with an addendum to the policy would be to capture the fact that anybody who has a cell phone that's supplied by the town of Arundel, and there is a cost associated with that phone over and above, because they're making personal calls, that the difference would be captured by them. So in other words, if they get a phone from us that's $60 a month and they're using it, it's unlimited texts and unlimited calls, but they start using data and the data is directly linked to what they're doing, they gotta pay the difference in the data. So I just think it's just a way of making sure that, that public money is being used for public benefit, and if the phone is being used for private, then it needs to be, that money needs to be captured.
And who's gonna monitor all the cell phone bills?
We monitor them now through the billing process. If we supply a cell phone to somebody, we have a call log, you know what they're making their calls to, and so we can tell right off if in fact they have an abundance of calls that are not job related. And it affects our bill. I think that's the key. If it affects the bill, then we'd want them to pay for it.
I think employees should know too that they're using their personal phone for town business. Somebody makes a FOA request,
Right.
their phone might have to be looked at by you to see if there's anything on there, so their privacy can be compromised to great degrees.
That is
Be real
correct.
careful about that.
Yeah. That is correct.
Yeah, there's a Clinton thing going on right now that's, has something to do with that.
Oh, yeah. I think that makes sense. I'd move we amend the policy as suggested by Keith in that regard.
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion on that? No? All in favor?
One more question, do they have codes to get into their cell phones, or you just turn it on and it's on?
No idea. I haven't looked at data administrator code, personal code, or anything like that. Often people do.
I know I have on my iPad, but not my cell phone unless I want to get my messages.
Right. So I'm not sure about that. I have another thing, and I should have brought it up under, when we were reviewing the municipal budget. I think I provided it to you in your packet. And this goes back to the fire station substation.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask them about that, but you had it in here.
You had, and I think, Dan, it came from you as to you wanted to know what cost that may be associated with that. And the information that was provided to me from the fire chief is a little older information. It was done in May of 2014, but it gives you a flavor as to what the overall cost to repair the building in general would be. It would be pretty close to $33,000 based on what was being projected through the proposal. And then the largest thing for us to work on initially would be somewhere around the $7,500 mark to redo the roof. But the larger question here for me is the status of the building and how it relates to the lease agreement that you have with the property owners. As you know, you don't own the land, you have a 100-year lease with them. And so we took the liberty to look at the language in the deed. Indicates to me that you have any time, this conveyance is subject to the conditions that if at any time in the next 100 years, the land herein described is used for any other principal purpose than to house a fire station, the title to the said land is to revert to the grantor herein or his or her heirs. So clearly to me, it indicates that if we're not using it as a fire station, that we need to make some sort of decisions as to what we're gonna do. Whether we're gonna use it as a fire station, I spoke to the fire chief, and at this particular point, he doesn't believe there's a need for it. So he's not looking at the future of reinstituting the station. If you folks feel that we should consider that, then we're gonna have to spend some money in it. If you folks feel that we can let it go, then I would not recommend putting money into the building, and I would revert the building or whatever content of the building back to the original landowners. So I'm not quite sure where you want to go with it at this particular point. Not how much of a hot button item it was in the past, any of those things, so.
What about the equipment that's sitting in there? What would they do with that?
Well, all we have in there right now is we have our sign truck from the Public Works Department, and we have a water truck that used to be a fire truck that's used by Public Works. And then the other material there is some old turnout gear, some, it looks like couplings, hose couplings, fire department, stuff like that, that there isn't a lot of it. And that's what's there. So at this particular point, it appears to me that it's being used just for a general storage area as a place to put things.
I say give it back to the family.
I think we
I
already
said
violated
that.
the condition.
Yeah, I said that for a long time.
And that was my point when I asked this a few years back, and, you know, what are we, what's the condition of that building? I haven't been in there in so long. What's the condition of that building? If we're not gonna put any money into it, it's just gonna fall apart, we might as well just get our stuff out of it and
Let it go back to the
let it
family.
go back, because I mean, if it's gonna fall in disrepair, it just opens up an avenue for somebody to go in here and something to fall on them or fall apart or get somebody
Yeah.
hurt. And
I mean, at one time, yes, there was a need for it, because we had volunteer firemen in that area, quite a few. And the minute the alarm went out, they were there, they were getting out the equipment and using it down at that end of town. That doesn't apply anymore. Our equipment is all dispatched from here, and with firemen on site all the time, I mean, our equipment gets there to that end of town just as fast as it did when that was an active station. I just think it needs to be closed and go back to the family, and we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Now, is there any wording, what the condition of the building needed to be when we turn it back over?
No. There's none in the deed
No?
that describes that, no. It would be my recommendation not to put a cent in it.
No,
No.
unless there was something in there that said, okay, the condition needs to be such and such.
Does not, and I don't believe there's any other side agreements that were made back in the 70s to ensure that. We couldn't find any in the record, so.
I don't think so either.
so the chief's recommendation is that we don't need that, right? So if you talk to Roger to see if Roger feels that we need it for any of other stuff?
Roger's of the opinion that he'll find a place to put the stuff if you want to get rid of the building. It's like anything else. If you have it, it will get filled.
Yeah. I mean, again, I wouldn't, I mean, I have a problem spending $32,000, but if it was of value, we wouldn't, but stuff's just been sitting in there. I mean,
That's all they've used it for quite a while.
There's nothing in your proposed budget that speaks to any of these repair items at all, right?
No,
Okay.
and in fact, if I heard tonight that you guys wanted to resurrect it, I would be putting some money in to at least do the roof and some other, things to bring it up to some sort of useful use again.
Yeah.
Is the family who's got the property, they still, their heirs still around?
Yes,
Yep,
They are?
they live right there.
they live right there.
Okay.
Yeah, Dorothy.
Oh, okay.
And I think they'd be happy to take it back.
Okay.
I've heard that.
And they had to put a little money into it.
I think they would crush it and build a house there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, anyway. So, am I getting the sense that we should move it forward to release this from our obligations?
I would make that motion.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
You're
we do
abstaining,
that?
Jason? You're
Aye.
abstaining.
Well,
Can this board do
I
that?
just got so excited there for a minute.
Um,
We're releasing an interest in real property.
Ooh, you know, you bring up a good point. You may not be able to do that unless we get town meeting approval.
So it's not real property, it was just the land. Oh, that's right, we're giving up our interest in the land.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Why don't we hold off on that? Let me
Yeah.
ask that
and if we have
question.
to go to town, then we'll
Let's
move
go, let's-
forward
Let me
with
ask the
that.
question.
yeah.
We'll get an answer to that, and then if the answer is what I hope it is, then we'll.
Was that leased to the town, or was it leased to the fire department?
It was between the Fire Association, which is now Arundel Volunteer Fire Department Incorporated.
Yeah.
So now that has been incorporated into the town, so,
Maybe a couple legal questions.
Yeah, really.
okay. I get the sense of what you wanna do.
Yeah.
We'll see what we have to do in order to make that happen. I'll come back with, some further information so we can do it properly.
The motion's just to proceed.
Yes.
Yeah, motion, yeah, proceed forward.
Yeah, I have another thing under, it may not be new business, might be other business.
The road width, is that, the weight limits, is that what you were?
Yeah, that's right, I wanna talk about the weight limits. Roger would like to, make a recommendation to you folks to post Hill Road and Trout Brook Road to 15-ton capacity. What we understand that the town of Lyman is already taking that action on their end of Hill Road. So this would make our end and the whole Hill Road be 15 tons. The reason we add Trout Brook is that we don't want somebody to
Cut across.
cut across that, and then get on the road and, you know, do some other things. So our recommendation would be to have you folks post it for 15 ton both those roads. The reason I have it here and I sort of marked it like this is that as I was looking at the records, I'm trying to figure out if you had the authority to do that. And you do have an ordinance that provides you the ability to set standards of stop signs and parking and also weight. But part of the record showed that at some point in the past, you also had a public hearing before you made those changes. So I looked at the ordinance to see if in fact a public hearing would apply in these cases. I don't believe it does. The ordinance, once passed, provides the ability to you folks to go ahead and make the modification. That would be almost similar to when you provide approval to put up, when the roads are being thawed and we're trying to restrict the weight limits because of the thaw coming out of the road. So almost the same principle would apply here. So I think you have the ability to go ahead and make a motion and record and second to post it at 15 ton.
So this is a permanent post? then?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Hill Road has been posted permanently for a lot of years.
I
On
believe
our
it
end,
was, I think it
On
was like,
both ends.
yeah, and I think it was what, 7 or 8 ton?
Lyman was 7 ton,
Okay,
and I think Arundel was 10,
okay,
and it's been that way for several years.
okay,
But increase it to 15,
right.
are they doing 15?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they just reduced them to,
Yeah.
just reduced.
So my recommendation would be to have the board take action and make it 15-ton.
Do we know if anybody out there would be impacted by this? I'm only addressing the public hearing issue here. If somebody
Yeah.
wanted to speak to, I mean, I don't know if I mean the Trout Brook Road.
Right.
The oil trucks, the milk trucks and them guys
They're
are
exempt.
They're
exempt.
exempt.
Right.
And the only people that it would impact is the construction industry with heavy trucks. And,
Nobody out there has got that kind of business that,
not on Hill Road.
what
No.
about Trout Brook?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Phil, what
And,
this,
and if someone lives on that road and has a piece of heavy equipment, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have a right to go to and from their driveway. But they cannot go home with a loaded truck and then leave with that load in the morning. They can, at the end of the day's work, they can go home, and in the morning they can leave to go to work, but they can't use it otherwise. That's what I think.
I don't know, but I just want to be sure if we're just gonna do it without giving notice that, you know, we
Yeah.
don't impact somebody unintentionally. and
I think,
that they want to be heard.
I think if you did, because there's so much flexibility that you as municipal officials could readdress, take a look at it and make some changes if you needed to.
Phil, I see a truck, and I would assume it's the milk truck going to Billy's. Would that be exempt too?
Yes,
That's a big truck.
yeah, that's an 18-wheeler, yeah.
Yeah, they're exempt.
He goes to Billy's. But I've also seen other tank trucks cut across there that do not go to Billy's. So the sign would help alleviate that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Roger was in here one day and wanted to lift the posting altogether.
Well, I think he wanted to lift it while they were doing the construction.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
think
it
that-
was.
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, and they did that.
Right,
And they used that hill road to do that whole intersection.
right.
We also at one time, Campground Road was posted 15 ton,
Mhm.
and that got lifted,
Mhm.
and it was to, I think it was to divert some of the traffic off the Route 1 and Limerick Road intersection
Making
and
that
off
higher.
of River Road,
Mhm.
so people would cut down there and go along Cabot Road instead.
I see.
But Campground Road was never constructed to heavy vehicles standards. Well, it's held up pretty well.
So what's your pleasure here?
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we allow
The
electric.
only thing is that I have a problem, it wasn't on the agenda, and I don't know if it's a substantive item that, you know, we haven't been adding in the past. In the past, the board had a policy of not having anything substantive
Sure,
to the agenda.
Want to do it at the next meeting?
that's fine. We'll do it at the next meeting.
That's the same notice issue.
Yep, good point.
Same notice issue, just want to make sure.
Right, so if somebody had a question, they would
Yeah,
see the
good point.
agenda.
We'll make sure it's on the agenda and we'll go from there. One last thing I have is, just to remind you, at your next business meeting, we're gonna have Brian Lippo from Sewell coming in to talk to you about the informational meeting on broadband, fiber optics and that kind of thing. He's putting an agenda together with Sam Hull and Jack Reeds now. They figure they're gonna need an hour's time. We're gonna reach out to the planning board, budget board, members of the defunct now Economic Development Committee, get them here, so they can hear what the presentation's all about. And if they have any questions, they'll be able to ask them. The other thing that Brian asked for, and if in fact we could start at 6:30 as opposed to 7. figure the extra half hour, you may be able to get through his presentation by 7:30, leave you enough time so you're not here until 9:30, 10 o'clock to complete the town's business. So if you wish to do that, we can schedule it that way, but it's entirely up to you.
I don't know if almost 6:30.
No. No.
So we'll.
Make sure it's well advertised that it's gonna start at 6:30.
Right, so we'll schedule the meeting on Monday, the 25th, at 6:30 in the morning. We'll start out with the,
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You have a problem with that?
Yeah.
we'll have to get the kids out of the way.
Yeah.
And Brian will give his presentation. That's all I have. I'll send you a reminder on that too, by the way.
I just realized we didn't put the payables on here.
I was just gonna mention that actually, under
Oh.
our business.
Make a motion, we sign the warrant.
The payables, yeah.
I'll second
Motion's made, seconded. All in favor? Any other business? Dan?
Take a motion, we adjourn. Why me?
That's your job.
Well, somebody take a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Second. All in
It's your
favor?
job.
I have a question though.
Go Bama Tide.
What about the work that's being done on the new road and Alfred Road? Anything being done there now?
It's done for now.
It's done for now?
Yeah.
All
Not sure when
over,
the
or
state's
they
gonna
do
put the
it or
light
what?
in, but,
Oh, no, new road.
it.
He's talking new road, that's.
oh, the new road? Oh, that isn't scheduled till, last we talked was 2017.
Oh, the new road.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was this year.
Yeah, the Hill Road, they got the bases in,
Yeah.
and they were there, you probably saw them, they were there, this past week, putting in, the panels for the switching station and stuff. They got that in. I think they're waiting, and I'm only guessing, but I think they're waiting,